One Piece chapter 1011 is out, and it definitely feels like this was a setup chapter. Even though we had a lot of big players and big movers, it seems like a lot of things are just being put in place. So the hype isn't all there for this one, but still a decent chapter nonetheless. We are on the cover of Shonen Jump again this week, and we also have a new color spread. And so there's something about the very colorful, very whimsical color spreads that I really like. This one's no different. You know, we've got all the Straw Hats eating ice cream. Everyone's kind of just doing their own thing with like their small little group. Frankie has his hair shaped as an ice cream cone. And then we have Nami in the background who is superimposed, like she's huge. And her art style is a little different. It reminds me of this other color spread that I really like. Just in her art style alone. Everyone else seems normal, but it's just her who seems a bit drawn up. We dive into the chapter with Kid and Killer looking out over the sea at Big Mom, who is doing what me and a lot of other people predicted, and that's making a new lightning homie. She creates Hera, and it looks like we're not going to see the full face. We just see the lips of this homie, so I'm wondering if there's a reason we haven't seen like the full face yet, or like the full design of Hera, kind of just an outline of what she's going to look like. But Big Mom unleashes a new move, Full Gora, and she ends up knocking Kid and Killer all the way inside of the dome. Now, I never expected Kid and Killer to be able to stall Big Mom that long, but I figured something would happen before something like this, where basically they get separated instantly because Big Mom used one attack. And for me, it seems like Hera is a bit stronger than Zeus is. I know Zeus has his Thunderbolt technique that Big Mom uses, but it seems like the Full Gora is just overwhelmingly powerful, especially from that kind of distance. It also seems weird that when Hera is being created, there are some screams out in the distance, and I don't really know what that is. Like, I can't tell if that's Big Mom taking out part of her soul to make Hera. I can't tell if that's Hera herself screaming about her creation. There seems to be some kind of mystery around Hera, just because we haven't seen her face and we didn't see the creation of it. It seems like something's being hidden. I don't know if that's for a particular reason. I think that's going to come up later if it is, especially with the confrontation with Zeus. I think this also makes it pretty obvious that we are going to see Zeus go back to Nami, even by the end of the chapter, because Zeus has been chasing for Big Mom. He ends up next to Nami, who he already has a relationship with, and who he can easily go to if Big Mom says you've been replaced. Now, before we leave the rooftop, we can hit the last little pieces, which is basically the law saying, alright, we have to get everyone out of here so Luffy and Kaido can fight. So he takes himself, Zoro, and Zeus down back into the dome. Once it's just Luffy and Kaido, they share some banter before doing another Conqueror's Hockey Clash where they don't touch, and this one sends off another seismic shockwave that just echoes throughout the top of the dome. Now, it's interesting because I'm not enjoying the clashes as much. I would rather them be a little bit more spread out. I understand the idea that now that Luffy's learned this, we're going to see more of this, but it kind of just takes away from the epic feel of it. Like, okay, so now they're doing this whenever they clash. That's cool, but I would like to see it used a bit more sparingly, not necessarily like with each big clash. It just feels too easy. It feels like it can happen too easily, and that kind of diminishes some of the hype factor, some of the value of what that is, what that entails in itself. But we go back to Kid and Killer, and they've been blasted pretty deep into the dome. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that it seems like either Kid has some kind of range to his Devil Fruit, or he was temporarily knocked out, because Zeus's Faraday box pretty much goes away, and there's no real explanation for why that happens. It just seems like it starts falling apart. Now, if Kid has a certain range to his ability, that's an important thing to know. It would mean that he is basically stuck to being a very close range fighter, or at least within a certain zone. And this isn't the first time we've seen zones in particular. We know that Luffy has some kind of limit to his stretching ability. We know that Law has his room, which he can only operate in. We know that Buggy has a certain field that he can only operate in. So it's not unfamiliar for people to have zones in which their power is effective. Kid and Killer hop back up, and they're rushing to go get Big Mom because they don't want her to go back to the rooftop. They don't know exactly where she is, but they just start running in a direction to figure it out. And on that way, they run into Hawkins, who we haven't seen in a very long time, who we've been waiting to see, and we've been wondering when he's going to do something big. Now he shows up here to stop Kid and Killer. and they kind of have some banter back and forth about the betrayal, and Hawkins is still making it very apparent that, there was no other option. He's surprised that they made it, but he was like, for myself, I was not going to sacrifice my life. I would rather join Kaido. Obviously, that's a pretty big weakness to Kid, so it's not going to change anything. They're still going to fight. But we actually end up seeing Killer and Hawkins go into their 1v1. Kid is going ahead to Big Mom. Why? I don't really know. I don't think Kid himself is strong enough to stop Big Mom. Now, there are a few other factors that we'll get to with Big Mom, but Kid going by himself doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It would almost make more sense if Kid would have just stayed on the rooftop with Kaido, because that seems like a fight he's more accustomed to. That seems like a fight he has more in depth with. There's no real reason for him to be chasing Big Mom around. Hawkins and Killer share some banter as well. Some interesting banter because Killer kind of alludes to a point that Hawkins is still playing a role. He's saying, you're still playing the guard dog, or you're still playing to the Beast Pirates, and it's not entirely sure if Hawkins is going to switch. I still think at some point he's going to switch sides. I think that's the only thing that makes sense. I don't see him sticking with Kaido when all of this is going on. But it still looks like they're going to have a 1v1. Hawkins then mentions that Killer has about a 92% chance of dying, which honestly in those odds isn't all that bad. That 8%, especially in One Piece, is huge. So I'm not entirely worried about Killer dying, especially in a fight with Hawkins. I don't think that's where it's going to happen. I think if he's going to die, it's going to be with Yonko. I don't really think Hawkins is going to be that big a deal, especially since he's just been fighting Kaido. Like, Killer has been showing some good feats as far as attacking the Yonko, taking hits from Yonko. I don't think Hawkins is going to be on the same level. And then we switch scenes over to Nami, Usopp, and Tama, and this is kind of where we're going to be for the rest of the chapter, just following these three and where they're going. Page 1 has switched to his hybrid form, and he's pretty much just tanking all of these attacks that everyone's shooting at him. And it's just going to show you how powerful and how durable these zone forms are, and these zone dinosaur forms are. They're literally attacking him at point blank range, and he's basically eating all of it. He eventually gets knocked off when Usopp uses a new move that appears to have some blowback. It looks like, maybe if it doesn't hurt Nami, it looks like it at least gets really hot for her, because she makes comment on it and Usopp says this isn't really a close range ability. So he's using some pretty dangerous stuff to be this close, but he kind of has to with the situation. Usopp also clarifies that full zone users, original zone users, are not succumbing to the Kibidango. This was a huge plot point that we've been wondering about, so it's good to see that Usopp at least made mention of it. And now that we know this, I actually have another question, and that's, why does it work on Smile users? What about the creation of Smile and the application of the fruit itself makes the Kibidango work on them? I feel like we'll get that answer indirectly once we start dealing more with Vegapunk, but I doubt we're going to see more reasoning to it in this arc. Usopp also uses another move, exploding pine cones, that looks really cool, and one that I would like to see him use more often. It looks like he has a lot of long-range lethal attacks. The exploding fire, the exploding pine cones, both of these look really huge. They have a really big field of effect, and I think those will be really useful in battle. So I would love to see him using these more. Now, as they're fighting, Tama is kind of having her own dialogue about the rest of the plan. And one thing that I really want to point out is that it honestly feels like they're giving Tama some death flags. Based on what she says here and what she was kind of doing with making the Kibidangos in the first place, where it was basically taking a lot of energy for her to do, but she kept doing it, it seems like she's going to end up sacrificing herself to make sure the plan goes as well as it possibly can. Now, I think that's a little extreme for the series that doesn't kill people to use a child for that kind of plot progression. That would be a very big change. That would be really shocking. Do I know if it's going to go there? I mean, I would wager it's not. I would wager that these death flags are like the other ones, in which it's mostly here for hype and suspense building, but it's not going to actually happen. But as they're talking and running, Big Mom shows up around the corner and spots them. Now, there's a very short time in which Big Mom is enraged by seeing more Straw Hats, but that's immediately canceled out by Big Mom seeing Tama. So he switches back to, not necessarily O-Lin mode, let me not say that. She doesn't go back to O-Lin mode, but she does go into this motherly state and talks to Otama as if she were O-Lin. The dialogue here is very shocking because it's always weird seeing Big Mom like this, but it reminds you that Big Mom in herself, her dream was to unite people. Her dream was to create a place where people could all come together at one area, you know, with no matter what their race, no matter where you came from. So it's weird to kind of see the inner Big Mom where she's a nice person and kind of wholesome person when you see her as this murderous, crazy old hag that she normally is. And even in this state, she's not necessarily a good person. She's just speaking with Tama as if that was one of her kids. When Tama mentions that Okobori town was destroyed, that sets Big Mom off into a rage, and she uses this rage to take out Page One, who is Kaido's underling. And the connection here is that basically Kaido's underlings burnt down Okobori town, so now Big Mom is taking it on Kaido's underlings, which happens to be Page One. Is this the betrayal? I hope not. I hope this isn't the thing that sets Big Mom off and has her fighting all the beast pirates. I hope that she really just needs to get her anger out and that she eventually switches to attacking the Straw Hats again, because I feel like this isn't a strong enough reason to cause the betrayal. Especially if Big Mom has a plan already, this shouldn't be a thing that starts out playing into action. Also worth noting that when Big Mom punches Page One, it looks like she's using armament hockey and the Conqueror's coding, because we see basically the punch land and we see it's not connected. We see it has that kind of fuzzy area of effect, and we see the black lightning. This pretty much looks like what Luffy was doing in the last chapter, almost like panel for panel, because it's just like it's a punch, so it's going to look pretty similar, but it has pretty much that same effect of hitting Page One without connecting with them. So this confirms that Big Mom can do what Kaido was talking about as well, which isn't a huge surprise, but it's nice to see. By the end of the chapter, Ulti, who's been God knows where, I could have sworn she was right next to everybody, shows up and she sees that Page One has been what should be knocked out. He got a full Conqueror's punch from Big Mom. He should be out for at least a little bit. But it looks like Ulti might challenge Big Mom. Now, we know Ulti isn't afraid to challenge the Yonko. She isn't afraid to challenge anybody. She is very aggressive, and I love that about her. So I feel like we're going to get some kind of interaction between Ulti and Big Mom within the next 7 chapters, which I'm actually really excited for. I would rather see Ulti versus Big Mom than I would kind of a rehashing of Nami and Usopp versus Ulti. All in all, I thought it was a pretty decent chapter. Like I said, the hype just isn't there for this one. This feels like a setup chapter. It just feels weird to see setup with so many big characters, getting ready to do things. We see Kaido and Luffy clash. We see Big Mom, and we see her fighting. We see Kid and Killer. We see everybody who's a big player in this arc, but it's a setup arc. So it's a weird combination, and it's coming off the rooftop, so that's always a change as well. It's still a good chapter to me. I think these things have to happen in order to progress the story along. I am very curious to see what Oda is going to do with Big Mom. But yes, leave a comment down below. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Let me know. There's going to be another poll in here as well. Feel free to subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.